Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one! Another one!
Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Good morning, everybody. How are you today? Kevin Brockway with Jim Coyle on the Indiana Sports Beat.
Hey, how about that intro, folks? Welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Thursday, the 17th of November. What a special day. K-Bro returns for a special engagement. Welcome back, Kevin Brockway. We appreciate him with that special intro.
It feels
like
Indiana here. It's like 40 degrees this morning, you know? Crazy. In Gainesville, Florida.
Is that intro from what's his name? I know who that is.
Mad Dog, Christopher Russo.
Yes.
I grew up watching and listening to in New York sports radio.
Yes, I knew that's. I could not think of his name, but I knew that's who that was. But a little special intro this morning from K-Bro. Absolutely. What a loaded show, my God. Not that Kevin's not enough. That would be a lot. But also on the program, Matt Taylor from the Colts, Stephen Bardo from BTN, former Illini. I'm going to have a talk with him about his 5 freshmen of the year. Big Ten I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Did he accidentally leave off Malik Renew and Jalen Hood-Schifino? Are you kidding me?
Especially Hood-Schifino, who's starting, you know?
Yeah. Let's see. Chris Denari, also from the Pacers. And then we may have to go to Woody Live. His press conference starts at 10:15 today. Who knows? But man, it is loaded. Lots to talk about. First of all, how's K-Bro doing, man?
Florida is good. You know, life is good down here. I've been tremendously busy. Football season's winding down. I'm actually going to be in Nashville this weekend for the Gators versus Vanderbilt. So I'll be in the Music City, where I'm sure it'll be chilly like Indiana, but it'll be good to be up there. Hopefully get down to Broadway, maybe get down to Tootsie's a little bit, and then cover the Gators versus the Commodores in that beautiful stadium there. That's a little bit smaller than Memorial Stadium. I think it's about holds about 40,000. I think it's also called Memorial Stadium. So
I've never been. It's downtown. It's right downtown.
West End. Yeah, it's kind of in the West End, a little west of that. They call it the West End down there. Yeah, it's a little west.
But a very nice area.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's a beautiful
right to the stadium. Yeah, I've been right to that stadium.
Yeah,
very nice. Very
beautiful
great
campus,
part of town. Awesome town to get to go to.
Yeah.
Very rarely is it that. Well, usually you're not in a big city for these schools, but when you are, it's usually not Columbus, Ohio. I don't think of I don't think of fun in Columbus. Nashville, hell yes,
yeah.
Send me to Nashville, baby.
Well, what's cool is Texas A&M. Also, I stayed in Houston, and I was actually in Houston the night they clinched the World Series. That was kind of neat.
Yeah, Houston wins the World Series. Boo, bah humbug. Lots of basketball going on, though. I just saw the AP Top 20, new AP Top 20 out. And apparently, Michigan State has jumped up onto the top 5 from the world of the unranked.
Well deserving, too, because, Jim, they took Gonzaga the wire. I mean, they had that game close to 1. I mean, they were up by double digits in the second half. And then obviously the Kentucky game, some really great execution down the stretch. And Calipari's taking a little heat, considering the talent that he had on that team, the fact that they couldn't close it out. I guess they missed a bunch of free throws too. And that was kind of a shocking double overtime game up in Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And then Kansas beats Duke under John Shire as well. So it's been a good first, a lot of upsets. Florida, the team I cover, lost to FAU. That was a big win for Dusty May, who obviously used to work at Indiana. He's a student manager there under Bob Knight in the early 2000s.
Was on the show yesterday.
Yep, and that was a great win for Dusty, and but certainly a bad loss for Florida as well. And FSU is only Louisville is struggling, right? So we're seeing a lot of parity, I think, early this college basketball season.
Oh, absolutely. I'm trying to find that new poll. Is it out? I don't see.
Jim, you were talking about a CBS Sports poll that wasn't like an official AP poll. The AP poll has Michigan State still unranked at number 26.
Yeah, because AP comes out every Tuesday.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. I was trying to find that, but
yeah.
Or maybe I think actually I'm mistaken. Here we go.
It comes out each Sunday at 2:00. Or is that the football poll? That's football.
Yeah,
that's football.
Monday, basketball comes out Monday at noon usually. Yeah.
Well, then the new one should
that
be
game
out.
already happened. So no. So the game happened on Tuesday. So
the game
it's still
happened
a week ahead before Michigan State
Gotcha.
into the poll.
As a matter of fact, I'm voting again this year, and Michigan State was unranked last week, but I'm sure they will.
Where will they be in your poll this week?
Oh, I'll probably somewhere in the top 10, probably like between 5 and 10. Yeah.
Just curious, where does
or maybe I don't know. You know, it'll be interesting. It always depends on how the rest of the country shakes out, and we'll see. Indiana's got a big test this weekend against Xavier, so we'll see. We'll see how they do.
The funny thing is, it looks like probably just 2 weeks into the polls, as long as Indiana holds serve and gets the win at Xavier this Friday and Sunday, they will probably end up in the top 10, depending on what happens in front of them. And then with Michigan State possibly being in the top 10, you're going to have 2 Big Ten teams in the top 10. At the beginning of the season, there was only 3 in the entire top 25, and 2 of those were at the bottom. And that was Michigan and Illinois. Not a lot of respect for the Big Ten at the start of the season.
Yeah, and, you know, Purdue looked pretty good in coming back in beating Marquette, I saw. Braden Smith looks like he's filled in nicely at the point guard spot there. So they're going to be a team that's going to be there. Hey, did you see that Tom Allen rant last night on
I did not.
NIL? You did not. Oh, it's interesting on his coach's show.
Oh, well, I was at the coach's show, but he talks so fast when I'm there. I couldn't even hear him. I was talking, so I go, man, I cannot believe how fast he talks.
He was basically.
So I didn't hear what he said, and I was there.
He basically threw up the white flag and said Indiana can't compete without NIL funds, and you know people have to donate, and that was kind of his shtick. Yeah.
It's true. There's truth to that.
Yeah.
I'll guarantee I'll back that up that there is truth to that.
Yeah.
First of all, Indiana has no tradition in football. So no, you don't have that going for you.
Yeah.
You're not good. So you don't have that going for you. You don't have the greatest coaching staff across the board. You don't have that going for you. And you don't have the best players across the board right now either. Yeah. So they're already in trouble. So absolutely, I agree with that. Without NIL, Indiana football has no chance to even be competitive.
But here's the thing: explain to me Kansas, then explain to me explain to me TCU. You know,
blips, man, blips. Let's see them sustain it.
All right.
Everybody has their Indiana. Man, they looked awesome in 19 and 20. It also has a lot to do with coaching. There's timing. I mean, they had Kalen DeBoer. I said it then, and I'll say it again. Kalen DeBoer is special. I mean, go back and look at his record as a coach from the beginning. That dude, geez, he lost he went 63-6 at the one stopper he was. He has done nothing but win. I mean, that's part of it. When Indiana was doing so well, look who the coordinators were. Kane Womack, Kalen DeBoer. It makes a difference.
What if Tom Allen had taken, say, the Arkansas job after 19, because I heard it was offered to him, and Kalen DeBoer became the head coach at Indiana? How different could the trajectory have been?
Very different. Very different. Michael Penix would be at Indiana throwing for 500 yards a game instead of doing it at Washington. But that's that. But yeah, hanging on to coaches losing good coaches and hanging on to ones you shouldn't hang on to has been a problem, in my opinion.
Well, and I think some of that comes to, which coaches are in demand. And Kalen DeBoer was obviously a guy on the rise and was in demand.
Absolutely.
As opposed to Darren Hiller, who was not, and, stuck around and eventually got fired, and ditto Nick Sheridan. And, that's what you get, unfortunately.
Boy, you brought in the crowd, baby. Everybody's loving to see K-Bro. Jennifer on the line. 5 lefts. Pete. Welcome back, K-Bro.
Oh, thank you.
I just saw Balin in from Scottsburg. I think
Beautiful
that's a new one. So, yeah. So awesome. But, man, it's going to be a fun day. Stephen Bardo has put out his 5 freshmen. Of course, he had Sky Clark on there from Illinois, who is not that he's not a good player. Ironically, a former teammate of Malik Renew and Jalen Hood-Shafino. But how do you have the best team in the Big Ten that has 2 of the top freshmen in the country on it, not on that list? It's just not possible.
And I saw that, and I was surprised. I was very surprised when I saw that list, and because I saw some Indiana followers on Twitter, and I saw them debating it, and I agreed 100% in terms of
That's for you, Kevin. Okay,
who is that? Whose mullet is that?
That's Chad Powers, baby.
Love that skit. That was amazing. Yeah, by the way.
Think fast, run fast. Was that not the best? I didn't think Eli was that funny until that. He was pretty damn funny.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that was great. James Franklin being in on it and kind of that was really well done. That was a well executed sketch, and the Mannings have really created that kind of great cottage industry now with some of the online stuff and everything. So
yeah, it was think fast. Who's your coach? Oh, my mom. She wasn't a great coach.
What did he say?
Homeschooled. She wasn't what did he say? She wasn't a great coach, but she tried or something. I forget. Man, it was hilarious.
Oh, it was great.
Oh, it was great games last night, and with the Champions Classic that happened on Tuesday as well. I missed the Xavier game. Xavier played, and I really did not realize that they were playing night before last. So I didn't get a chance to watch them play, and I really regret that.
What's interesting is that, I know Indiana plays Xavier this weekend, right? And Florida plays Florida State. Well, the following weekend, Florida goes to Portland, and they play Xavier on Thanksgiving night in the Champions Classic. So you can kind of give me a little scouting report there of Xavier before the Gators play.
Absolutely. As let's see, when was their most recent game? They lost to they played Montana. Was that their most recent game? Yeah. That was this past Friday. I thought they played recently. Had a 9:00 game. I'll be dang. So Xavier most recently played Fairfield.
The Stags.
Yeah, they played Fairfield.
From high school that went to Fairfield. Yeah.
78-65.
Yep.
That was 2 days ago?
Well, this is kind of like the Sean Miller game, and didn't Sean say some things about Indiana fans defending his brother, defending Archie, and will there be election?
I've heard that, but I haven't been able to find that. I would love to find that clip. We were talking about that just the other day, and I could not find it, but I wish I could. Oh man, I wish I could. Why would Sean Miller say anything? I mean, here's a guy who lost his job because he's a cheating SOB, and how he's still in coaching, I don't know. But he lost his job because he went to Arizona and cheated his ass off. So he needs to just keep his mouth shut, take the butt whipping he's probably going to get on Friday, and go about his business. But
defending his brother, sticking up
another. I don't even want to say it. Right. Another scoundrel. made off with $26 million for being terrible. I wish that somebody would pay me $26 million hell, I wish somebody would pay me $6 million for being terrible. I can be that bad for a lot less. A lot less, baby. Oh, brother, too bad you're not around anymore. You miss out on our Friday live shows. I'd have you out to, you'd love this. Oh, my gosh. Live from BB's on Fridays. Chef JD brings out all these different meals.
Uh-huh.
You'd be in hog heaven.
Okay.
All these different and if
breakfast,
you ever
lunch,
get back,
or what are they do?
everything, man, they open at 6 a.m. now. I did not realize that until, but BB's opens at 6 a.m. Breakfast, brunch, lunch, dinner, they got it all, and custom made. But yeah, it's just but I have there on Friday, so if you ever make it up for the weekend one of these days, we'll do that.
That sounds
can't
delicious.
wait. Oh, it is. It is very much so. And we got lots. So is the rest of the show's lineup, man. Stephen Bardo, Mike DeCourcy, Chris Denari, and K-Bro along for the ride. It's a great day. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're a business, who is we?
We
Women's basketball?
That's what I'm guessing, because it's not the men's team.
Well, I know it ain't the men's team, but
would they be playing Penn State this early in the season?
why will they be playing them this early in the day?
We have a game against Penn State. Maybe it's volleyball.
I wonder why he would bring it up without any context.
It is not basketball. Because guess who Indiana women play next?
I thought they beat Tennessee, right?
Yes. Next they play Quinnipiac. Maybe they should reach out to Archie for a scouting.
They're known for their polls, the Quinnipiac poll or whatever.
That's right. They're political polls.
Political polls. That's what they're known for.
I'm curious. Has Rhode Island won a game yet? I know they were 0-2.
Wow. It's unbelievable.
Little Rhodey.
Little Rhodey.
Yeah, I don't know.
So Miller Kopp is shooting well, or
Lil Rhodey got his first W against Stony Brook. How cute.
Stony Brook.
But they lost to Texas State.
That was the thing that Sean said about CTA said he would love to have half of that, about the $13 million. Yeah.
Shit, he'd like to have a third of that. What are you talking about? They don't have any of that. And the guys that are getting it are the wrong freaking guys. Sean Shivers, I think, is getting the most of anybody on the team.
Really?
Really? Wow.
The worm?
According to I looked at well, that's not official, but what the hell are you eating?
Cereal.
Waffles. Let me guess. Waffles,
Cereal.
right?
Cereal.
Oh, cereal.
Honey Nut Cheerios.
The waffles.
What do we call it? The word here is that Richardson's getting $1 million, $750 in the beginning of the season, and then $250 after the season ends.
There's no one here getting that money, that kind of money.
It's the SEC. It's a different ballgame down here, man.
I mean, there's no one on IU basketball getting that kind of money.
$1 million? That surprises me. I thought maybe Trace would.
Maybe.
He's not.
Trace might be getting that.
All right, here we go.
Devils Network. TheHoosier.com is where you can find complete coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and plenty more. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Thursday, and we are lucky enough to have K-Bro with us for the day. Kevin Brockway sitting in from, is it the Gainesville Sun?
Yeah, Gainesville Sun and Gannett. We have 17 papers overall in the state, so it's kind of a it's a bigger network than when I left, so that's good. So my stories are appearing like in Palm Beach and Sarasota and Naples, Fort Myers, 17 papers in all, which is nice. But based in Gainesville, and Gainesville Sun is kind of the hub of where we are.
Don't forget, we're brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant, located at Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington, where each Monday at 7:05, you can find Inside Indiana Basketball, Don Fisher, along with Mike Woodson, the coaches show right there. Also the football coaches show on Wednesdays for a couple of more weeks. And you had mentioned earlier, I think this is, Sean put up this, maybe this is what Tom Allen said, that Ryan Day had mentioned before the season at a meeting that they needed $13 million per year to keep the train rolling. And they're probably getting that. Matt Taylor probably gave them half of that out of his personal bank account. But, Matt's here. I'm just kidding. Matt Taylor from the Colts joining us now. Just kidding. Matt, how are you, buddy?
What's up, man? Yeah, you know me. I love Ohio State football. Got to keep those guys. Got to keep them relevant. College football playoff now.
Can you see what I'm wearing? Just for you, brother.
Hang on just a second. There you go. Oh, it looks sharp.
Yeah.
It looks sharp. Yeah.
Got that
there
on
you go.
just for you, baby. A little Colts
Atta
action
boy.
just for you.
Yeah. Did I send that to you? Did I get your size right on that?
No, you did not send this to me. Or you see me. This
no.
was a purchase. But feel free to. I'll provide you the information to you
That's right,
later.
baby.
I would rock some Colts gear, man. Big weekend out in Vegas.
Yeah.
Change. Sometimes you change will do you good. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. I can't say. Matt loves my singing. Who was it? Sheryl Crow? Yeah,
that is some
sometimes
Sheryl
change
Crow.
will do you good. So maybe sometimes a change does. But in the professional sports, it takes a hell of a lot more than that. I know that. But what a huge win for the Colts after all the turmoil they've been through, to go out to Las Vegas and get that win. That was big.
Yeah, it was. Snapped a 3-game losing skid. And I think, these changes that you mentioned, I mean, they all point to the fact that the Colts, they're not giving up on the 2022 season. They made a change for an interim coach. It's a bold move. There's no doubt about that. It's a unique, for the most part, unprecedented move for a former player that's never coached major college football or the NFL. You go back to Matt Ryan at quarterback after he had his minor shoulder sprain. But even in that, the Colts had declared publicly that Sam Ehlinger was going to be the quarterback for the remainder of the season. So to double back on that again, I think it just proves that, the Colts still believe in themselves, and they still think they can make a push at this. And, 4-5-1, they're still kind of right there. If they can get to 500 by Thanksgiving, then I think you have a shot. But the problem is that if you look at what's coming down the pike for the Colts, they have the second toughest strength of schedule the remainder of the season. They got some marquee dates coming up with the Cowboys and the Chargers, the Giants, the Eagles coming up on Sunday. So they've got some really big, heavy hitters down the stretch here. But for 1 week, it was a good win, and now it's all about sustainability, and we'll see if that trust and that loyalty to Jeff Saturday can continue. Here in the late stages of November and December coming up.
Kevin Brockway with the Gainesville Sun, formerly was up here with the CNHI papers with us today as well.
What's up, Kev?
Hey, Matt, how are you?
I'm good, bud.
Matt, by the way, I'm seeing a lot of Colts scouts at the Swamp every week. Anthony Richardson is there playing quarterback. What do you think is the long term? I mean, do you think that they're in the draft this offseason for a quarterback, or how do you view just, the future of that position right now, or how they're evaluating it?
Yeah, I think it's very fair to say that the Colts are definitely, headhunting for their future quarterback. Last year, as you know, Kevin, I mean, the draft was so depleted with top end quarterback talent in the first round. There weren't a lot of quarterbacks worthy of being taken in the first 16 or so picks. And I don't think that's going to be the case this year. I don't pretend to understand the draft as of right now because we're still in the middle of the season. I'll bone up on the draft, coming up in January and February coming up. But no, there's no question that the Colts are evaluating where Sam Ehlinger fits in, where Matt Ryan fits in, and trying to pull the trigger when it makes sense. Because as you guys know, I don't have to tell you that as soon as you draft a quarterback in the first round, or you spend high draft capital on a quarterback, the clock is ticking. Right? The clock is ticking. And when you pick a guy in the first or second round, the assumption is that guy is going to be your quarterback of the next, 2 or 3 contracts, at least, 4 or 5 years, depending on how it plays out. So there's no doubt the Colts are trying to get it right, because if you get it wrong, it sets your franchise back big time, especially with the way that this roster has been constructed over the last, 3-4 years under Chris Ballard. There's a lot of top end talent here. There's a lot of players that are here that are in their prime that are ready to win now. So they need to get the quarterback situation right. And so it's going to be fascinating this upcoming off season. How many, can they roll it? Can they run it back with Matt Ryan? Again, where does Sam Ehlinger factor in? Do they have enough, evaluation on him? So there's definitely a lot of variables that are going to go into it. But yeah, there's no doubt the Colts are going to be front and center, sending scouts all over the country, following and evaluating these perceived top end quarterbacks.
And then we don't know if there's going to be any further change at the administration level, GM wise or whatever. But there is going to be, you just mentioned it, the amount of pressure that's going to be on the Colts to get this right. It's huge because of what has happened over the last couple of years. You talk about setting the franchise back. They've been able to tread water, it seems like, for the last couple of years when things aren't working out. But man, if this doesn't work out, you can't tread water with that. That's just kind of like someone throwing you a brick while you're out in the ocean.
Well, I mean, like I've said, I think I've said this on the show. I think if you were to, if somebody that lived on the moon didn't get NFL Game Pass and they didn't know anything about the Colts, and you tried to describe, who the Colts are and what they've been about since Andrew Luck retired, you would say they've been really competitive, or competitive enough to the degree that they're not in a position to draft a high-end rookie quarterback in the draft, right? Because if you're finishing with winning records and you're making the playoffs, which the Colts did a couple of times since Andrew Luck retired, you're not going to be picking in the top 10. Okay, that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is they've been just promising enough and good on paper to justify looking for plug-and-play veterans with Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz. And those two guys had a very high degree of familiarity with Frank Reich and the play caller and the offense at the time. Then they make this move for Matt Ryan, a very unique situation after Deshaun Watson was flirted with. And, that situation sort of ran its course with Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons. And so that's where the Colts have been in the last 3-4 years here. And I don't know if that, synopsis will apply to them this upcoming offseason, because I don't know how the final 7 games are going to go with Matt Ryan. He's definitely had an up and down 2022 campaign to this point, where he's looked good, but also you factor in the turnovers and the interceptions and the lost fumbles, just a lot of uneven play. I mean, you love Matt Ryan, the guy, the leader, and he's beyond the most professional, one of the most professional human beings I've ever come across. So you're rooting for him personally, but does he give the Colts the best chance to win the rest of this season and next season? It's a very fascinating offseason coming up for the Colts, because there are going to be some quarterbacks that are, I think, worthy of being taken in the first round. Where do the Colts finish in terms of draft order, and how much urgency, that's the word I've used, how much urgency do they need to show this upcoming offseason to either make a bold trade or move up high in the draft to be in a position to get what they deem their franchise quarterback of the future, after their analysis and their evaluation matches up with taking somebody, worthy of that pick and giving up that much draft capital, which they're going to have to do in order to move up to be in a position to draft their guy.
4-5-1. I mean, there's 7 games left, I guess, now with this expanded schedule. I mean, is there still thought there's time that they could sneak back into the wild card race? I know the AFC East and the particularly in my team, the long struggling Jets are off to a good start. But there's we would call it. It seems like that's where the strength is. But is there a feeling that this team can get on a roll, a belief, or?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, there's still time. The schedule definitely heats up, like I mentioned. But yeah, I just don't think there's any. I mean, even the Eagles, tied for the best record in the National Football League at 8-1. They're not gonna. They shouldn't. I mean, you respect the hell out of them, right? But they're not going to scare you. I mean, they've got a lot of chinks in their armor as well. We found that out on Monday against the Commanders, and so there's. I don't think there's any invincible teams. And so saying that, I don't think there's any games the remainder of the schedule for the Colts here where you say, well, that's a definite loss. I don't think they're going to go 7-0. I mean, that's really difficult to do. But at the same time, I don't think you look at the schedule and say, automatic loss, right? So that's why the games are played on paper, man. Like who had the Commanders winning on Monday Night Football on national television on the road when they're 10.5-point underdogs? That's why you play the games, man. That's why this is the best, reality TV going, right? This is better than Days of Our Lives because anything can happen any given Thursday, Sunday, Monday. So yeah, I still think the Colts have time, but with one game under their belt with Jeff Saturday, they certainly look better than they had in the last month or so. So we'll see, again, I go back to that word sustainability. We'll see if it sustains, and we'll see if some of that life and some of that, fresh perspective continues to carry over here for the Colts and down the home stretch.
What was different, Matt, against the Raiders? Indianapolis was able to put up 600 yards or 400 total yards in offense. And they held the Raiders to only 300, which obviously works out great. So they are obviously just better offensively, and the Raiders are not one of the top teams in the league, but something what was different, because that's been a problem for the Colts to be able to get the passing. Right. I mean, they were equal. I mean,
yeah, balanced. They're balanced. Yeah.
208 to 207. It's pretty as balanced as you can get.
No doubt. Yeah, I thought the biggest difference was the offensive line. The offensive line maybe played its best game of the season. They pass protected very well.
7 yards per play, man. 7 yards per play.
Matt Ryan dropped to throw 28 times. He was only sacked once, and really the sack was more on Matt Ryan than it was the offensive line if you go back and watch that play. But 28 pass attempts, only one sack, only one pressure. The offensive line ran blocked very, very well for Jonathan Taylor, to the point where, in the first half, runs are ripping off for 4, 5, and 6, and they're staying ahead of schedule. They're not in a lot of 3rd and longs, right? They're moving the chains. They're getting a lot of first downs. And then in the fourth quarter, those same runs turn into big runs, gains of 15, gains of 13. Then you had the 66-yard run for a touchdown there in the second half. So I thought the offensive line played its best game of the season, and that was good to see because you had some different moving pieces up front. You had Bernard Ryman at left tackle, and then you had Will Fries at right guard. So that's like your third different left tackle, and like your at least number 2 right guard. They flirted with some other guys in that position as well. They've had Braden Smith play there. They've had Matt Pryor play there. They've had Danny Pinter play there. So, Will Fries, you guys know him, Big Ten guy at Penn State in year number 2, kind of that Swiss Army knife. So we'll see if they have found something in terms of stability up front along that O-line going forward. But at least for one game, it was a good outing. Now, again, the caveat there is, and you got to be fair and objective and bring it up, it's the Raiders. And the Raiders defensively, they're not good. And they're 2-7. And they're going to be picking high in the draft. I don't think they've got a whole lot of life left, and they're on a 3-game losing skid and all of that. But the offense was balanced. I thought Parks Frazier, who's now sort of the de facto play caller, did a really good job of simplifying things and keeping things on track, not trying to put too much on his own plate, but also the receivers and the entire offense scheme going into that game. So I just thought it was good execution and a great job by the offensive line. And in his first game, Parks Frazier calling plays. He should have dialed up a 30-point game. The Colts lost a fumble at the +20, which has been their MO all season long. It's not only the turnovers, but it's where they're happening on the field. It's directly costing them points. I'm getting fired up talking about it because if you just eliminate those things, this team is so much better than that. But it's situational demise for this team. So they had that plus a missed field goal. So they scored 25 points. They're over 20 for just the second time this year in terms of output. So I thought it was a really good job by the offense. And again, obviously much stiffer tests coming up this Sunday against the Eagles, and we'll see what happens. But for one game, Jeff Saturday gets an attaboy, Parks Frazier gets an attaboy, and Matt Ryan back at quarterback deserves a lot of credit for how he handled himself and showed a lot of professionalism.
Matt, you'll have to get credentialed up and head over to Gamebridge Fieldhouse that evening, because Sunday's a doubleheader. Look, after the Colts hopefully beat the Vikings, then Indiana will be taking on Miami.
There you go.
At 6 o'clock.
Attaboy.
That evening.
Can you help me out with that?
Go. Absolutely. Well, you can be our photographer. Make you the
there
photographer.
You go, please. I can
photo
yell,
boy.
please.
Photo boy. Matt the photo boy.
Yeah.
Well, brother, I wish you a great broadcast on Sunday and the best of luck.
All right, guys. I appreciate you. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, you
Matt.
so much. The great Matt Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. Coming up next, the incomparable Mike DeCourcy from Sporting News and the Big Ten Network with more from the Indiana Sports Beat right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here's the deal. Hello, Mr. Mike. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I cannot complain. It's a great day. We got K-Bro back in the house.
I see that. Although as soon as I come on, he's like, I got to get out of this room. I don't want to
I'm getting more cereal, you know.
And that does not surprise me. I told him the thing he misses most is being able to be here on Fridays when I do my live show from BB's and they keep bringing out all this food. I was like, man, you would be in hog heaven. Kevin is the eatinest.
The ribs, yeah.
Kevin is the eatinest
guy.
I always said it. I said, man, you're the eatinest MFer I've ever seen in my life. He can put it down, baby.
Oh, wow.
Hungry guy.
So what's going on, man?
I don't know. They're jumping off the Todd Golden bandwagon here.
They are, huh?
That was pretty rough. That was a good win for Dusty May.
Yeah.
I was watching that game early, and I watched Dusty's team, and I'm like, this is the stronger team. This is the more he's got some dudes, like older dudes. I mean, I think that's the thing. You know, he's got a bunch of 4th and 5th year guys, and
right.
They played more points, yeah. And Florida played, other than Castleton, who's been great. Florida played, just out of control. And they didn't pick up shooters in transition. But I kind of thought their shot selection bled into that. Todd didn't necessarily agree with me, but when you throw up wild shots and you get long rebounds, and you get in broken floor situations.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, because they shot 38%. I think they were 18 to 51 from 2. But FAU had a 7-1 Russian guy who was, because Castleton scored 30, but he was 11 to 25. He wasn't efficient.
Right.
They were getting him, yeah. Against Kennesaw, he was like 11 to 17. He was great, but he had 32.
Not Louisville. They're a disaster.
Yes, it's not good.
Well, and Florida has FSU, and they're a disaster too. Actually, on Friday. So
that's true. Yeah. They're both 0-3.
Right, but doesn't Louisville?
We got Jim real quick.
Doesn't Louisville have better talent than Tom Crean had in his 6 and 25?
Oh, absolutely, season? Absolutely. They're just not disciplined. All right, here we go.
Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Thursday from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, high atop the 18th fairway. What a great show today. K-Bro, Kevin Brockway joining us today. And now Mike DeCourcy from BTN, as well as the Sporting News. And I'm sure he's got probably a few other titles we could throw in there if we wanted to. How are you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm hanging in there, man. I will tell you, I probably, like in my life, I kind of train for March. Like everything builds up to March. So I know March. I have enough energy stored up for March. I'm expecting it. But college basketball World Cup coinciding in November, my body can't handle it, man. I'm hanging on by a thread.
Mike, I give you
supposed to happen.
for wearing your Steelers shirt. It's kind of like when I used to wear my Jets stuff last year. The tables have kind of turned now. The Jets are 6-3, and the Steelers are what?
3-6. So that is literally the tables turning. Yes.
Well, sometimes that has to, even for the Steelers, they have to have down years, although it seems like they never do.
Well, Tomlin has been there since 2007 and has never had a losing season. And they have not had one as an organization since 2003. So that gives you an idea of what it's been like. And of course, it's much like Kentucky now, where every loss, what's interesting is every loss at Kentucky is a tragedy. But you go 26-8, and it doesn't mean anything unless you win in the tournament. So that's a nice little trap they got set there. Not all of them, of course, just the few.
I saw a tweet you'd sent out not earlier today. Happy birthday to Jim Boeheim, who took over Syracuse basketball when you were a sophomore in high school.
Yes. Look at me. Look at me. I was a sophomore in high school when he started, and that was when he was head coach. He was an assistant when I was still in junior high. But he's been a head coach since I was a sophomore in high school. That's just amazing. I don't even know what to say to that. I can say this. I will not be, all those titles you mentioned before, I will not be filling them when I'm 78 years old. I can promise you that.
Well, that's a good run. I hope that I'm not, but probably will. But as you mentioned, lots going on. The convergence of college basketball and football alone is enough to keep us busy right now. Indiana basketball, of course, getting started. Haven't played anyone of note just yet, but their first test coming up Friday against tomorrow. I keep forgetting what day we are. Xavier and Sean Miller up in Cincinnati on the road, so that gives a little bit of a test. I think Indiana is still a superior team by, I'm saying, 12
points. A little bit of a test at Cintas Center against a team that has 4 veteran starters and a 5th who's new to the program but has played 3 years of college basketball. No, it's a heck of a test. If they get out of there with a W, it'll be a heck of a win. Let me tell you. The team was not in the tournament last year, but they probably should have been. They were on my mock probably at one point a 6 or so in late January, early February, and they fell all the way out. So the fact they didn't play in the tournament last year is not indicative of what they were capable of. It's a really strong team. Now they have weaknesses. They maybe aren't the most dynamic team in the front court. So they may struggle to keep up with Trace, Malik Renaud, maybe a little bit. They may have a little bit of trouble staying in front of, say, Jalen Hood-Schifino. But Colby Jones is if it's Colby Jones that guards Jalen, then that statement doesn't hold, because Jalen Hood-Schifino is terrific, but Colby Jones, one of my favorite players in college basketball. I love what he does. So it's a real challenge. And I've been to Cintas many times. I lived in Cincinnati. I don't remember exactly when they opened it. So they opened it around 99. So I lived in Cincinnati for 15 years after they opened it. So I was there scores of times. And it's a heck of a hard place to win a basketball game if you aren't wearing an X on your jersey. So it'll be a real test for the Hoosiers. And if they can survive that, it's a great sign for what's coming ahead.
And for Xavier, they know that this would be a gigantic win on their side for the tournament seeding, for just going forward, for confidence, for their season. That would be a gigantic, huge win for them.
Yeah, I mean their great rival is Cincinnati, and that's a game that they often point toward. Now, okay, so coming out of last night when Cincinnati lost to Northern Kentucky, a little bit of steam goes out of that. So maybe you're thinking that one's not so tough, and if you do get that one, maybe it doesn't carry as much weight as it did 4 or 5 years ago. So you've got to. This is an opportunity for the Musketeers that they might not have a lot of on their schedule that'll come anywhere near this. Now, obviously, there's their league. Big East has some good teams. Villanova, Creighton's going to be great. But this is a real opportunity for them, and they won't get many of these. You only get everybody only gets so many unless you're Tom Izzo and you're playing, the 67 Celtics and the 72 Lakers, etc. You only get so many, so they're going to put a lot into this. And look, I'm not saying that Indiana can't go down there and win. I'm just saying that they have to be on their attention. They have to be really detail oriented, and they have to use the advantages they do have in the front court in terms of elusiveness, dynamism. The Xavier players in the front court are very skilled offensively. Zach Fremantle, really skilled, but he'll struggle to keep up with Trace if that's the matchup. Jack Nunge, everybody who follows the Hoosiers will probably remember from his time at Iowa. Big, super skilled. But if Malik is out there, does he keep up with them? Those are the things that Indiana has to enforce. They have a quickness advantage at every front court position. They have a quickness advantage. But when you start talking about the backcourt, Xavier can hold up there. They've got good quickness, good speed. They should be able to hold up there. So I think what Trace does, what Race does, what Malik does, those are the things that will make the biggest difference for the Hoosiers.
Mike, what's interesting is that Xavier is also going out to the PK85 in Portland. So they get Florida actually on Thanksgiving night, which is kind of interesting. So I told Jim to give me a scouting report. But the Sean Miller factor, too, him coaching them. What are your thoughts about, just what he will bring in that matchup?
Well, it's hard. Remember, coaching it's not always an immediate thing. The best coaches, what they do, I mean, they can make some strategic adjustments, but Sean Miller is a guy who's going to change players over time. He's going to infuse the toughness and the intelligence over time. He can make a significant difference immediately, but the greatest difference from someone like him will come over time. If you look back to when he took over Arizona, second year is when it really kicked in at Arizona. They had a team that wasn't super talented, but made the Elite Eight in his second year, 2011. And in his time at Xavier, they really struggled right out of the gate. And second year, they struggled much of the year, and then it started to click in, and they finished with an incredible February and won the Atlantic 10 tournament in March. And then from there, it all just started to roll downhill for Xavier basketball in the best sense of the word. It didn't go downhill; it rolled downhill. Everything became easy to an extent. The players got better, the team got better. They make the Elite Eight into 2008 and Sweet 16 in 2009. So that I think his best work is over time. And so I'm not sure that I think they'll be better in this game than they might have been otherwise. But I wouldn't say that right now you'll see the full effect of what he's eventually going to bring to Xavier basketball.
You mentioned Zach Fremantle earlier. He had a triple-double in their win over Fairfield. 15 points, 13 boards, and 10 assists. Very obviously their centerpiece. And it'll be. I wonder who's going to draw the assignment on him. If it's going to be Race Thompson or whomever that is.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be Trace because I'm not. Nunge plays on the perimeter a lot because he's a really good shooter.
That's where Race will be.
So I think it's going to have to be Trace. And, you don't always want your best player to be exposed to the potential of foul trouble. But as I said, I mean, Fremantle's really skilled. He can pass the ball. He can shoot it. He can handle it. But can he go by a guy like Trace? I don't think so. I'm not saying he's never going to get by him, but on a regular basis, I don't think so. So I think that matchup shouldn't be a problem for him in terms of getting into foul trouble. That doesn't mean he gets it done. When you get screened and people run action like that, then all of a sudden it becomes a team thing. How do you stay in the play? Do you switch? All that kind of stuff. But I think that's the matchup that makes the most sense based on skill sets and what you have to offer.
And also, Kobe Jones did not play in that game for Xavier. He is a junior, preseason, all Big Ten, all Big East rather selection at the guard spot for them. Averaged 13.5 points and 7 assists through the first 2 games. He didn't play in that game, so they didn't have his services either. So if he's able to come back, that'll make a difference for them. But how healthy he is, that may make a big determination as well.
People overlook how important health is and how important it is to be at your best. Kentucky's played Tuesday night. First game they had with Oscar Tshiebwe. Xavier Wheeler only played a half or so against Duquesne. Damian Collins was coming back off the passing of his father. So they did not have as much practice time. And on the opposite side, Michigan State, they really need Jaden Akins to be a 1 or 1A option to be their best. And he missed almost the entire preseason. And I think actually I should say the entire preseason with an injury, and is only coming back now and did some good things. But if you're not whole, it's really hard to be ready for these games because you're already behind in terms of you're not where you want to be in terms of development. That's why a lot of teams play a lot of bye games at this time of year, because they know they're not ready. They know they're not at their best. And it's one thing to play a team. You're playing some of your most important games in terms of your March seeding or your March selection, and you're playing them before you're ready. So you're kind of taking the chance that they'll be as behind as you. So I understand why teams play bye games to get themselves prepared for the biggest games. And so Indiana had a few of those, so maybe they're ready for them. But now for Xavier, they had 3 scheduled, and Kobe Jones is not out there. We may not be who we're supposed to be.
We're seeing in the state of Florida, Mike, that some of these bye games are far from guarantees, right? The team I cover, Florida, lost to FAU. Stetson beat FSU. That they have a lot of problems. They have players hurt, suspended, and so forth, and everything.
Stetson,
like that.
And Stetson's star was Luke Brown from Black Hawk Christian, and he put up 27 off the bench, I think. And then the next game, he put up another 20-point game for Stetson.
He was born to score. You know that.
I'm telling you, it's what he does. It's what he does.
Unbelievable. But
Mike, what's up?
What does it just say about? Is there a little bit of parity in the game? You think more than we think, or is this just a blip because, like you said, teams aren't ready?
Yeah, I think it's especially this year. I'm not sure what changed in college basketball that our first games were March 7th. That's as early as I can remember it beginning.
Yeah.
I think that's as I said on another show the other day. I'm like, look, I could get college hoops in the middle of July, but November 7th was early for me. I mean, it's like, really, we're already going. So I can see where for the teams that's a challenge as well to be as ready as possible.
What's up next for you, Mike?
World Cup starts on Sunday. The U.S. plays Wales 2 p.m. on Monday. I have 2 significant projects related to that coming over the weekend.
Is one of those an interview with John Hamm?
No. I wish I had. That would have been cool. We didn't think of that, or maybe it wasn't offered or available. But anyway, I will say that I did a big piece that is a real conversation piece. We maybe can have this talk on Tuesday. Is soccer one of the 5 major sports? Is it now 5 major sports? I mean, I grew up in the 70s, 60s, 70s with baseball, football, basketball, hockey, man. That was the edge of the world. The world was not round. It was baseball, football, basketball, hockey, and then that was the end of the world.
My high school did not offer soccer when I was in school.
No, mine either. And you know, it's interesting because I looked it up, and in 1983, there were I can't remember the numbers, but there are now 4 times as many high school soccer players today as there were in 1983, boys and girls combined. 4 times as many. That's how much it's grown in 40 years. And there's no other sport really that you might find some that have gone from like 10 to 40, but not from like, you know, maybe 4,000 to 20,000. And that's how much we've seen it change. And so that will be part of what comes out in the piece that will appear on Saturday.
Make sure you look for that at the Sporting News and give Mike DeCourcy a follow. Brother, appreciate you. Looking forward to it. Seeing you again
Good to
next
see you,
week.
Kev. Thanks, Jim.
Good to see you, Mike.
The great Mike DeCourcy joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat on this Thursday, brought to you by our good friends from Remax Realty. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between you getting the home you want or not. Or if you're in the Louisville, Southern Indiana, Floyd, Clark, Harris, and Scott County areas, Barbara Pop Real Estate Services has served that community for 3 decades. No one can get you in the home you want better than Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. Reach out to Barbara at barbarapop.com or my man Matt Lincoln, Matt at barbarapop.com. Back with Kyler Staley to talk some Hoosier basketball after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda.
Kyler,
Have you learned how to do all that stuff, K-Bro?
What?
On your
bringing people in and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, taking them out.
The whole screen thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's pretty easy once you get it down, you know.
Oh, it's
and
easy
then you
as
can put
pie.
like the thing on the side or whatever. Yeah.
Do you have a sponsor for your podcast?
No. We just put up the logo and stuff. Yeah, we haven't. Well, we have like ads that like run before that we have stock from Gannett. You know,
you need to get your own sponsors, dude.
Well, I don't know.
What's up?
Not much.
Staley?
I'll be.
I don't know. I don't know if I can do that because Gannett controls it. You know what I mean? It's on.
Yeah.
You know.
That makes sense.
Screw it. Forget it.
I
want to call
the money,
Kyler Staley. I want to call him Ace Frehley.
Why?
Of course. But John and Kyler, do you know who Ace Frehley is?
No, that's why I'm curious.
Is he in Kiss? If I'm wrong, sorry.
He was.
Okay.
Yes, he was. He was one of the original members of Kiss. He was the lead guitarist in Kiss.
May I ask why you want to call me that?
The name.
Okay.
Just Kyler Staley, Ace Frehley.
Okay.
Well, it's better than Tyler Stanley. I've been called that before. My name's the worst, man.
Why? It's easy as hell.
Yeah, you think so. I mean, a lot of times
It
it's
is.
Tyler, Skyler.
I hate when people pronounce my last name as Alden. That happens pretty frequently.
Alvin?
Alden, like just a short A sound instead of the.
I thought you said like Alvin is in the Chipmunks.
No.
Don't do that again.
The Chipmunks. The Chipmunks. Yeah, Mike DeCourcy thinks it's going to be a great test tomorrow night.
Absolutely.
For Indiana.
It will be.
I wonder, will they have Colby Jones back?
That's what I'm trying to refresh every couple hours to see if there's any updates with that.
What if Jerome Hunter puts down 26 and 12 or something on Indiana?
Make
Fans
Jerome
love
Hunter
that.
beat you.
Is Jerome Hunter having a good season or no?
I just looked at his stats. He's averaging like 3.7 points.
All right, here we go, guys.
Guilty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. And now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It's Thursday. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. It is big game week. All kinds of games going on. Indiana basketball tomorrow night, football Saturday, basketball on Sunday. Colts play on Sunday. When does Florida play, K-Bro?
They play Saturday at noon against the Vandy Commodores. Yeah, SEC Network.
So we got all kinds of stuff. Kyler Staley from the Hoosier.com joins us now. Lots going on this weekend, man. As we were just talking with Mike DeCourcy about the convergence of all these sports right now. It's always a tough time of year, but Indiana basketball getting their first test tomorrow night as they go on the road, down the road to Cincinnati, take on Xavier. Sean Miller and his squad. They were without their top guard, Kobe Jones, against Fairfield the other night. And whether he's back is going to be a big determination for how much of a challenge they can put up, because he's their guy on both ends of the floor. He's not just an offensive guy. He's their best off-ball defender.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to provide, depending on if he plays or not, that's going to provide a real test for Indiana's backcourt. I listened to what Mike had to say. I do think it is a battle of the front courts this game, especially with how versatile Zach Freemantle and Jack Nunge are, which Jack Nunge, is from Iowa. So, Indiana fans are familiar with him and everything. But, depending on how Kobe Jones, how he shakes out, if he plays or not, I mean, it could come down to which backcourt, has the better showing. Xavier Johnson just been a little bit inconsistent to start the season off. This would be a big test for him. Is Jalen Hood-Schifino going to get his scoring going a little bit? Had 8 assists last game, which is completely fine, but his playmaking ability, is a big advantage for Indiana. And I'm really curious to see how Miller Kopp shakes out. He shot the ball very, very well. I think he's like 6 of 8 right now throughout the season. Let's see how he can shoot on the road. Let's just see how this whole Indiana team can do on the road. 3 and 8 last year. Obviously they have a history of not being great on the road. So this will provide an extremely, tough challenge to start the season off for Indiana.
Exactly. Zach Freemantle, I'm trying to look up. He's 6'9". So he's a guy that can be guarded by Trace Jackson-Davis, by Race Thompson, and by Malik Renew.
And Jordan Geronimo.
I was getting ready to say, and very possibly Jordan Geronimo. So I don't think he is going to. Indiana has too much talent in the front court for me that I don't know how good of a defender that Trace Jackson-Davis is really considered. He can be when he wants to be. I do know that. And this is a challenge, and hopefully Mike Woodson challenges him with this assignment. But everybody, Fremantle's in for a long night, because if he has to go from Trace Jackson-Davis to Malik Renew to Jordan Geronimo, that's Fairfield doesn't have any of that, much less 3 in a row. And I think that I'm looking forward to seeing, but without seeing it, I think that they're going to be more than okay. He won't be getting a triple-double, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and expect Indiana's defense to be stretched out to the floor a little bit. Both Jack Nunge and, Freemantle, they can stretch the floor. So Indiana hasn't had a challenge really doing that this year. They did an okay job last year. Race Thompson towards the end of the year was really good guarding the perimeter. And I'm just curious to see if they're going to take Trace Jackson-Davis out on the perimeter. I wouldn't expect so, but I expect a big game from Jordan Geronimo as far as the defensive end. I think when you think of, Xavier's front court, I think Jordan Geronimo is the perfect defender for those guys, just because of his athleticism and just how well he's been playing so far this season. So, I mean, that's one thing to watch out for. I mean, Xavier's got to shoot the ball very well, I think, to have a chance to win this game. I like Indiana to go in a little bit fired up and a little bit something to prove, a little bit of chip on their shoulder as well.
Speaking of perimeter defense, Hood-Schifino was a guy when I watched him play in April at the Geico Championships. that's what stood out to me about him, just his strength and his size and just his kind of doggedness on the perimeter. Have we seen that early this season from him? And how much of an asset could that be? Because I thought that was kind of the one area where Indiana was missing last year in terms of just, having a guy that could stop an Ivy or stop a Johnny Davis last year.
Yeah, I would say so far Indiana's backcourt, and you want to include Miller Kopp in there, I think they've done a great job of guarding their perimeter. You saw that last game against Bethune-Cookman. Speaking of just Jalen Hood-Schifino, he was brought in. Mike Woodson even mentioned, his defense, like the freshman, had to kind of get up to speed when it comes to the defensive end to start the season off. But he said Jalen Hood-Schifino came in ready on as far as the defensive stance. He's an excellent perimeter defender. Miller Kopp's shown really, really great perimeter defense. I always think he's a underrated perimeter defender, in my opinion. But just Jalen Hood-Schifino, he's provided so much as far as just a playmaker overall for Indiana. He's a guy that's been setting up his teammates. Like I said, had 8 assists last game. He's not going to be a guy that's going to go off on the score sheet every game, but he's going to be a guy that's going to make the right plays for Indiana, and that's something that they've been missing for quite a long time.
Indiana has 10 players averaging 5.5 points or more right now. 10. Including 4 that are averaging double figures. Again, this is just, I know it's early. It's only been 2 games against 2 less opponents, but these are the 10 players that I think you're going to see for the entire season, as a matter of fact. But this is why Indiana is so much better this year, because they do have, it's not 7 deep or 8 deep. They are legitimately 10 deep. Now, are they going to get 18 points from all 10 of those guys? No, I don't think that. But this is why I think a team like Xavier is going to have great difficulty with an Indiana, because of the 2 games Indiana has won, the starters haven't shot that well as a percentage. Xavier hasn't shot that great. I don't have his percentage up, but I know that they haven't shot great. But the team as a whole has shot over 60% in both games, with sometimes 3 starters shooting worse than 30%. So the team as a whole, it is definitely, the sum is greater than the individual parts.
Yeah, Indiana's team is just so deep. That second unit, I've noticed at the first 2 games, it feels like, the starting 5, they kind of start off a little lackadaisical, in my opinion. Then they really, rely on that second unit to come in and provide a spark. On the road, that just can't happen. Indiana's got to really start off hot. They're going to be in a crazy atmosphere with the Cintas Center. That's an electric fan base for every game, whether they're good or bad. And Xavier is a tough team, in their own right. They probably should have made the tournament last year. Returned, I think it was around 68% of their 68% of their, scoring last season. But yeah, it's all going to come down to a hot start from the starting 5 with Indiana. But I just don't think Xavier has the depth to compete with Indiana's depth. They Malik Renew and Tamar Bates, those 2 guys have been guys that have came off, especially Malik, just come in and he's dominated since he's gotten in. And I'm just curious to see, much bigger competition, much better competition. I'm curious to see how Malik Renew does, once he faces a tougher challenge.
Is Woody still doing the 5 in, 5 out, or is he staggering, or what's he doing with the substitutions now?
I think it's a little bit staggering. I've noticed it's usually you got Tamar and Malik are the first 2 off the bench, and then shortly after that you get Trey and Jordan Geronimo and those guys, and then usually you'll have Xavier Johnson or Jalen Hood-Schifino running that second unit, which is that's what he wants to do. I think he said he preferred to have Xavier run that second unit, but there's been time, I think it was the Morehead State game, where Xavier was in foul trouble and Jalen Hood-Schifino had to run the second unit, which he did a phenomenal job with. You especially saw that chemistry that him and Malik Renew have. He was feeding him, nearly almost every possession, and at least Malik was getting some touches there. But it's about a 9-man rotation right there. It could stretch to 10. It could stretch to 11. This Indiana team's just really deep. All their scholarship players, I feel, could come in and contribute, when their name's called.
Jerome Hunter, forgot about him. He's going to be there, former Hoosier, over on that squad. We talk a lot about Jack Nunge. Jack Nunge from Newburgh, Indiana, down just outside of Evansville. All our listeners on the ref, 97.7 WREF, always the right call. He's, they list him at 7 foot. I'm not sure he's 7 foot, but he originally was 6'9" when he went to Iowa. That's a big growth spurt in college. I mentioned that that
He's a
doesn't
grown
usually
man.
happen. But anyway, he's a guy that likes to step out and shoot the three. Definitely. I don't know how much time he likes to spend in the paint, to be honest with you. So I see Race, but that's going to be fine. Race guarding him, and I think that I don't know that he's been guarded, not this year at least, by someone that it can do the same things that he can. Race is very comfortable being out on the perimeter.
Yeah, and that's like I mentioned earlier. I mean, you're one of the key elements for Indiana if they want to, escape this place with a win. They're going to have to guard the perimeter, and their front court players are going to have to guard it. And I think Race Thompson and Jordan Geronimo, those are the two guys that I would expect to be more out on the perimeter on the defensive end. You mentioned Jerome Hunter, and I'll be curious to see how he kind of plays in this game. Right now, just averaging only 3.7 points per game. He does have 4 rebounds. So he's been an excellent rebounder for them so far. Obviously he'll play more on the wing. I would expect Miller Kopp to kind of guard him a lot. But yeah, it's going to come down to perimeter defense, I think. And, Indiana's strength is their defense. And, they're going to have to rely on that if they want to win as Xavier.
Yeah, Jerome Hunter has played in all 3 of their games, but he is the 8th man off the bench for them. So he's not doing a lot. And again, we talked about whether or not they're going to have Kobe Jones available. That's going to go miles in what Xavier is able to do. But Indiana comes right back on Sunday as well with a game in Indianapolis against Miami. So not a lot of rest. And that's going to happen again over the Thanksgiving holidays, where they play the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. You take Thanksgiving off, and then Friday you're back at it again. So Indiana getting some early back-to-back or quick turnaround games.
Yeah, things are going to ramp up real quick for Indiana. And then, you've got kind of that, once you get in December, you've got that, you've got Big Ten play that starts off, and then you got, the Kansas game and you have the Vegas game. Those are about a week apart from each other. But, I mean, that's still pretty, those are some tough challenges. And I totally missed, talking about the North Carolina game. It's going to ramp up for Indiana. They really don't get a break until around like the Christmas time, New Year's Eve time. And then it's right back in the Big Ten play. So, you're going to find out what this Indiana team's made of. I think the Xavier game is a great, great first test for Indiana just to see where they're at.
Well, to me, it will definitely I think more national people are going to want to look at this game to get an idea of where Indiana truly is. Brother, thanks a lot. Make sure you give Kyler Staley a follow on Twitter at Kyler Staley, also at thehoosier.com, where you can find complete coverage on Indiana news and recruiting and follow up on live game threads and everything else that goes with that. Thanks, brother.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
You bet. Kyler Staley from thehoosier.com joining us. See what you're missing, K-Bro? All these great games coming up, man.
I know. But, I guess, is Logan Duncan playing a little bit? Did he take a step forward, or is he still kind of buried on the bench?
Yeah, he's not going to be in the 10-man rotation once the Big Ten play starts. I'll just say that,
because it's a homecoming game for him. He's from Cincinnati, as you know. And
he's play average 6 minutes a game.
Yeah,
so he's getting in at the end. It depends on how this game goes, on what this game is like, on whether I didn't think about that, but that's a good point. On what it'd be interesting to see how this game goes and whether or not he's able to get in there. You would certainly
poor Jerome Hunter too. Remember he had that leg injury a few years ago and just was never really the same after that, right? Because he was a guy that was really hyped up in terms of being, a potential impact guy for the Hoosiers, and just didn't work out.
We got to take a break. Up next on the program, Mike DeCourcy. No, Chris Denari joins us here on the program from the Pacers. Plenty more, as also Stephen Bardo on the show today too. Man, what a lineup. Back with more, brought to you by our good friends from Metalworks Brewing Company, a part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Network. Make sure you stop in. They're right off the square in Bloomington, catty corner from Cabello. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Hey, this is John the
All right.
Did you text Stephen?
I did about an hour ago. Didn't hear from him, but I send him the link, let him know what to do. He has all the instructions of what to do. So, I mean, you could send him a text as well if you'd like.
I will in the next break. Did you see his you cereal eating son of a bitch?
I need to finish them before they go cold, you know?
Honey Nut Cheerios. You know what? I like the honey bunches of oats myself. Those are my favorite.
Apparently, this is good for cholesterol. Help
Yeah.
lower cholesterol.
I think you got some more schmutz on your face, Kevin.
No.
Ain't on your cheek. Your left cheek. There you go. Oh, not quite. You see it up there?
Is it off?
No. Turn. I feel like I'm Kevin's mirror. Other side. You see it? There you go.
All right. I'll just wait till after the show to finish up my cereal. I've been so knee deep in before the cereal goes cold. Yeah, thank you, Ross. I've been so knee deep in college football now that I feel like I've lost my touch on basketball. But yeah, Florida.
Because
I was
you're
like,
now you're in college football
and
country
everything.
now.
And what?
Because you're in college football country now. They don't talk about basketball until football's over.
Yeah, pretty much. They don't. Yeah, I mean,
Good morning,
it's
Chris.
interesting. When Florida was 4-4, people were getting a little excited for Golden and stuff, but now the Gators have won 2 in a row and they're back on the football bandwagon. So,
Kind of sounds like Indiana, only in reverse.
yes, exactly.
Chris, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're hanging in there.
We got K-Bro on the show today. I don't know if you guys ever got to be on together or not.
Yeah,
Kevin
we
used to
talked.
be on
Yeah.
with us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I follow him on Twitter and get all my Florida Gator updates.
How about that? I appreciate that. I appreciate you still following.
10 seconds.
And, the SEC.
The membership's available, so go to eaglepoint.com right now and get yours today.
Yeah, I'm in Houston.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Welcome in the voice behind the Pacers, Chris Denari, coming to us from Houston.
Yeah, got in late last night. Nice win in Charlotte. Double-figure win after trailing by double figures. Pacers are now 7-6. First time they've been over 500 since February of 21. Probably one of the surprise teams, no question, in the NBA. I think they have surprised people in Indianapolis. They've surprised people all over the country. But this is a group playing very well together. They had 6 in double figures last night. Miles Turner's playing at a high level. Tyrese Halliburton leads the NBA in assists. So, all is good. So got on the plane last night, about a 2.5-hour flight to Houston. The team will take today off and then have a shoot-around tomorrow before playing in Houston. So, it's one of those days. These are the days you sort of look forward to, guys, when you're on the road, when you're on a road trip. I like flying after the game. I mean, you're up, you're awake, and then you get to the hotel, and if it's, 2 or 3 o'clock, I got my room all set up and then went to bed, and then you're still on Eastern time. So I woke up a little earlier than usual, but that way I could do the show.
Chris, I've been to Houston. I went to Houston a couple of weeks ago when Florida played Texas A&M. So I'm a big Papacitos guy. I don't know if you've ever been there. Seafood enchiladas are pretty good.
Yeah. We are staying. We're right by the Toyota Center. So
Okay.
I have yet to go out and get my morning coffee. So I will be making that trek here momentarily once we get done.
Maybe I'll see some confetti from the Astros parade too. Some leftover
that's
stuff.
right. That's right. I mean, we're down here. What's interesting is Toyota Center is right here, and then the baseball stadium's right down. Minute Maid is right down the street. It is Minute Maid now, right?
Yeah.
It was Enron, then Minute Maid. I mean, a lot of these fields and stadiums, they change names, just like what we're seeing in the crypto. I mean, Miami's arena is going to change its name. You wonder about what was the Staples Center, what was crypto.com in LA. Yeah, it's interesting.
I hate it. But back-to-back wins, man, that's great, especially with the road win being on part of that. But that's not – is that what I keep looking down? I wrote down 7-6, and then right next to it I wrote Wimbayama.
Here's the thing. I mean, everybody's talking about Wimbayama.
This is going to be another Pacers year where they fight their butts off, and they are fighting their butts off, and they have a 7-6 type year, but that knocks them out of getting that. Then you're back to where we've talked about them being in that middle pack of the draft all the time because they never blow it out and stink. So
yeah, but I think right now they have a really good core that's going to move forward in the years to come. I mean, you've got a dynamic backcourt you're going to have for the next 5 to 7 years in Benedict Mathurin and Tyrese Halliburton. Isaiah Jackson's played really well off the bench. Jalen Smith. I mean, these are guys. Chris Duarte's been hurt. Andrew Nembhard from Gonzaga has been outstanding. So you've got a core of 6 or 7 guys moving forward. As I've always said, there's no guarantee in this NBA draft because you can have the worst record and you have a 14% chance of getting the number 1 pick. It's not the NFL, whereas, many years ago when the Colts had the worst record in the NFL, they were guaranteed the first pick, and that's when they took Andrew Luck. So, we'll see. It's a long season. Last night started a stretch, 19 games in 33 days. So it's a ton of back-to-backs. The schedule, has been fairly favorable, though I think the Pacers have pulled off some really good wins. And so this 7-6 start is a little surprising from the standpoint that you've got a young team, but it's a hungry team. They play well together. We were very fortunate as broadcasters. We were able to go to a team function on Tuesday night when we got to town. We went out to dinner with the entire travel party, and you can just see how much these guys like each other. I mean, they all didn't have to be there, and every guy on the team was there, cutting it up, having dinner, that kind of stuff. So all of those things go a long way. We'll just have to wait and see. But these guys are focused on the task at hand. Front offices are focused on, building for the future and all that. And that is important. And these guys know they're building for the future, but they're getting valuable reps. I mean, in virtually every game, you've got 2 rookies on the floor in crunch time. If that just doesn't happen. And yet they are being successful out on the floor. So we'll just have to wait and see, but it's been a lot of fun. Checking, Twitter and Facebook. Pacers fans are really excited about what they're seeing now, but more importantly, Jim and Kevin, they're excited about the future because these guys are a part of the future. And maybe you couldn't have said that a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and Nembhard was the guy who started his career at Florida. He's a Montverde kid. He's Canadian. I know Mathurin is Canadian. What have those 2 guys done, or what did they do, Chris, to kind of prove themselves, to get the run, to get the playing time that they have, you think?
Well, I think Nembhard, as you said, his 2 years at Florida, he was Jalen Suggs' backup, if you will. He came off the bench his junior year at Gonzaga, and then last year he was the starter. He has proven he can play off the ball. He had another double-figure game last night, hit a couple of threes. He's a lot bigger and stronger than you think he is, and he's a little bit more athletic than you think he is. Mathurin he is freaky athletic and just has a willingness to work and learn. I've said this on this show in prior weeks. He went to Rick Carlisle and said, "Coach me hard. I want to be the best I can be. The only way I can be the best I can be is you have to let me know when I even need to work harder." He's a guy that adapts during the game. He's averaging 20 points per game. He's the number one scorer in the league off the bench. He's the second leading rookie scorer behind Banchero. But what we saw last night, he has now risen to the top of the scouting reports. And so teams pay a lot more attention. And so early on, he struggled. Then all of a sudden last night, he went to a little bit different game. He was shooting floaters. He was getting he loves to either get to the rim or shoot the three. Well, he was shooting floaters and shooting mid-range. And then he had 10 points in the first half. I think third quarter, he didn't do anything. Then he scored 10 straight points to start the fourth quarter, just taking the ball to the basket, getting to the free throw line. I think, Kevin, the biggest thing for those two guys is they come from great programs, right? Arizona and Gonzaga. They know how to win, and they have carried that over into their early stages with the Pacers.
Yeah, Chris. But this stretch coming up, what concerns you about, a young team? You're kind of rolling, you have early confidence, but just the road. What have you seen from younger teams on the road? How they handle it, and how do you think this group could potentially handle that?
Yeah, I mean that's going to be the biggest thing. The Pacers will have its longest road trip in 30 years after this next homestand. So Houston tomorrow, then 4 straight at home Thanksgiving week, and then the Saturday after Thanksgiving, 13 days, 7 games. You've got the Lakers, the Clippers, the Jazz. You've got a bunch of really good teams. A lot of times for the younger teams, they like it as a bonding experience, right? Because these guys are still getting to know each other, so they get to hang out a little bit more. And some of these guys will tell you that you're not worried about, and I'm not saying this as a negative, but family and friends that are coming to the games and need tickets and all that kind of stuff at home. You go out on the road and it's just you and your group. So sometimes it's a little bit easier, I think, for these young guys to be on the road just because their sole focus is, basketball. So we'll see how this group handles it. Like I said, 19 games in 33 days. I remember my first year as the voice of Butler basketball 30 years ago. We played 28 games the entire year from November to March. I had 28 broadcasts from November to March. As of last night, I have started 19 in 33 days. So basically 19 games in a month. I just have to broadcast. These guys have to play. So I think that's the one thing that you find out quickly about the NBA. And Tyrese Halliburton said it the other day. He said, a lot of people talk about the rookie wall, because I don't necessarily think it's a rookie thing. I think it's an every player thing, because you're going to hit a wall at some point where you have 2 or 3 games where you just don't play to the level that you feel you're capable of because your body's tired, all those kinds of things. So he goes, you just have to figure out how to manage that and minimize those times where you're not playing at the level that you usually play at.
Well, since you haven't had one of these stretches for so long, even though that you're not playing, it gets a little tiring being on the road. How do you stay in the right rhythm? And because when you're home, I know we all have our routines.
Yeah,
man, you talk about taking you out of a routine. 2 weeks being gone will do that.
Oh yeah, there's no question. And that is the biggest thing to get adjusted to. The other thing is, as I said last night, getting in at 2 or 3 in the morning, walking off the plane, getting on the bus, going to the hotel, checking in, all those kinds of things. Those are the things that people don't see when they think about the glamour of NBA travel. Yeah, we travel on charter planes. Yeah, we stay in great hotels, but your body still has to face the rigors of that travel and the lack of sleep and those kinds of things. The one thing we're facing, and this will be the first time I've done it in 2.5 years. Tomorrow night we play in Houston, so it's an 8:00 Eastern start. The game will be over about 10:30. By the time we leave the arena, it'll probably be midnight. And I'm going Eastern time. By the time we fly, it'll be between 12:30 and 1. I'm guessing the flight from Houston to Indy is an hour and a half, maybe. I don't know. So all that, I'll probably get home about 3 or 3:30 on Friday, and then we have a game on Saturday night. So it becomes a quick turnaround, not just for the Pacers players, but for all of us that have a job to do as I've got to prepare on Saturday for that night's game. So those are just the things that I've got to get back used to after not having traveled for 2.5 years.
Well,
but don't feel sorry for me. I have a great job. I love what I do. I mean, I am very, very fortunate. In fact, I'm going to do an interview with an IU student today from the sports broadcasting, sports media area. And I do a lot of classes. I do a lot of, and every time I ask them, I go, how many of you would love my job? Everybody raises their hand. Absolutely, you should, because it is a great job. So it's just all the things that you have to deal with in getting ready for that job.
Absolutely. Well, man, we're looking forward to it. I hope you stay rested, and thank you so much for making the effort to be on with us today. But you do that a lot, and we greatly appreciate you. You're in Houston. That means you can go have Whataburger. So
I gotta find it. You're right.
That should not be a problem.
There's got to be one. Man. There's got to be one downtown, right? There has to be.
I'll have you one found within moments, just because I love it so much. I love it that much. I'll find one for you. Don't worry.
All right. I'll have my coffee here in a few minutes, and then I'll find a Whataburger.
I could put my Whataburger hat on, man. Not too many people have a Whataburger hat. It's my favorite spot. Chris Denari, voice of the Pacers. Make sure you catch him on the broadcast. Appreciate you, brother.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you.
Thank you.
You bet. Chris Denari joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat, brought to you by Cabello Restaurant. Get the taste and traditions of Southern Italy right here in Southern Indiana at Cabello Restaurant, located right on the square in the former Grazie location. Make sure you stop by. They're a proud partner of the Wild Network. We've got more coming up. Stephen Bardo, hopefully joining us here next with more Indiana Sports Beat. Okay, bro, how's it been? You having fun?
I am having a blast here, Jim. It's just great to reconnect with some of the old people in Indiana, and just gearing up for a pretty busy end of the season for me in terms of going to Nashville and then FSU game on Friday night. That big rivalry, Florida State, the Friday night after Thanksgiving. That's going to be another kind of a busy day, and Florida will be maybe going to a bowl, and the possibility of playing Purdue in the former Outback Bowl. That's looks like a projection there. So
wait, whoa, stop. The former Outback Bowl.
It's called the ReliaQuest Bowl now. Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
So I don't know if they're gonna have any more bloomin' onions in the press box. That'd be disappointing if they don't, because they
didn't have any the last time.
No, they didn't.
No, you were there.
Yeah, or they had steak or whatever. They didn't have that.
No, I don't remember getting jack.
I think you missed out. I think it was there.
Oh man, I got screwed.
But Tampa would be fun for New Year's. I mean, that's a possibility, or maybe the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville too is another possibility for the Gators. We'll see. But I think first they have to take care of business and beat Vanderbilt to get to 7 wins. Actually, if they drop to 6-6. There's a chance they could go to the Vegas Bowl, which wouldn't be too bad. That wouldn't be and that'd be December 17th.
Well, we got to take a quick break. Coming up next from BTN, Stephen Bardo, analyst, joins us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're a business. Good morning, Mr. Bardo. How are you, sir?
Doing well. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Man, you sound like a pro.
All right.
Pro. Got that, man. I saw that your studio. It looks awesome.
Yeah, I put a little work into it, and it, as you well know, because you've got yours, you got to invest a little bit in it, but it's well worth it.
I like the TV in the background. That's something I might have to
say. I like that.
Add, man. That is. But also, you've got it just set up so perfectly.
Well, and the thing is, when I'm doing those clips, I've got all the school jerseys, and this is for advertising. So I got this from somebody else that you can run their advertising on it once you get it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I've when he did, you were talking about Indiana. I saw you had an Indiana pennant down there. So make sure. Well, what's the name of it? Bardo's Breakdown.
Bardo's Breakdown. Yep, it's YouTube / Bardo Media.
Yeah. How's it going with you, man? You heading to Milwaukee today?
Yeah, I got LIU at Marquette. Remember the great Rod Strickland?
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, he's coaching LIU.
How about that?
Yeah, they're not tremendous, so it might not be a very good game, but he's in rebuilding mode.
It's just wild. You got Rod Strickland there at LIU. Just the other night when Indiana played, oh gosh darn it,
Bethune-Cookman.
Yeah, who's their coach?
Reggie Theus.
Reggie Theus.
Yep.
Man, I was sitting there looking. I go, man, I can see him 20 years ago. Man, he just looks a little older, but I'm like, man, I can see him on the floor.
Yeah, I know, right? It's crazy how guys from our era are coaching, and the crazy thing is their kids are playing, so it makes me feel kind of old.
I know.
Yeah. I can't believe
guys,
Mike Davis's son is still playing.
Back in 25 seconds.
Okay.
Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you can find complete coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and plenty more. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Thursday here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on Indiana Sports Beat. K-Bro with us. Special day for him, but we're also great to have Mr. Stephen Bardo back with us from BTN, Bardo's Breakdown. Man, you've had all kinds of stuff. Are you still doing the food when you stop around and visit the restaurants?
No, COVID kind of shut that down, Jim. I really enjoy doing that.
Let's restart that, man. That looked good.
Yeah, I think I may try to get that in the off season.
Just add it to the media portfolio. You got a portfolio going now.
Okay, I appreciate that.
It does. You've got a lot of great content. Bardo's Breakdown is one of those that you've got out where you well, I've seen previews on teams, but is this a weekly thing that you're doing?
You know what, Jim? What happens is I try to go Mondays at 6 p.m. Central Time, and the first couple of weeks I've had games on those days, so I can't do it. But, we got 10,000 on the platform on Facebook that, tune in, and we have a lot of fun with it. I've got very knowledgeable Big Ten fans that keep me on my toes, like the Indiana Hoosiers fans keep me on my toes. So it's always a lot of fun.
Oh, I promise you some are going to have some comments about that freshman, not all freshman list. They've been fired up about that. But great content for you to go watch, especially just Big Ten across the board. If you're keeping up with the teams, whether if you're an Indiana fan, whoever, they're playing every team in the Big Ten. So Steve will be talking about each and every one of them. So that's some additional great content for you to take in as you go through the basketball season. Recently, you put out your freshman, I don't know, what is it, early list as of right now. One thing that was glaring to me is neither Malik Renew or Jalen Hood-Schifino from Indiana on that. And I know an Indiana fans stand up, but Jalen Hood-Schifino is probably the one because Malik's not starting. Jalen Hood-Schifino to me is definitely not only one of the top freshmen in the league, but he's going to be one of the top guards, I think.
I agree. And, for all the Indiana fans, here's what I'll tell you. So I didn't communicate with my producer the right way. I should have said freshman under the radar or freshman to look out for, because when Indiana is good, we're going to talk about Indiana ad nauseum, right? We're going to talk about Indiana every week. We're going to talk about Jalen Hood-Schifino and Malik Renew. And that clip that I sent you from Bardo's breakdown, I kind of shared that I think Jalen Hood-Schifino is one and done. And I was very surprised at how talented Malik Renew is. Early returns, I'm more impressed with him than I am Hood-Schifino. So I stated earlier, and I made him, like I said, me and my producer didn't coordinate quite the best. I take that. I own that. What I should have said is some freshmen to watch out for that may be under the radar. So I love both Jalen Hood-Schifino and Malik Renew. I'm looking forward to seeing Jalen kind of get comfortable. He doesn't look quite as comfortable yet as Malik does, but I love both of those players, and they are definitely not only probably the best freshmen in the conference, but I believe if they can, come up to their potential, they might be top 15 of all players in the league by the end of the season.
I don't disagree. And Malik, I agree with you there as well. When I watch him play, he always just looks like he's playing against some juniors in high school. Like his mentality is that he's just playing with some juniors in high school and he's doing his thing. It doesn't matter who he is playing against. It doesn't seem to change him. And that is one of the things that makes a player great is their mentality. He certainly seems to have that. I agree with you 1,000%.
Yeah, no, he's special, and he knows where his bread is buttered. He's very comfortable on that, right block, face coming to the middle with his left hand. He's a very underrated passer. So I think that he will be an X factor for the Indiana in terms of how far they can go in the conference and how far they can go in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I don't want to get Kevin in here in a second. I was looking a minute ago at so tomorrow night they have their first true test of the season as they'll head up to Xavier to take on the Musketeers. But Indiana's depth is really deep. I mean, they are legitimately 9 to 10 deep. Yep. They've got 10 guys that are averaging over 5 points a game now, and some of those are the starters. So it's the depth. They truly have it this year, and I think Malik Renew is a key to that, because you take Race Thompson or Trace Jackson off the floor, well, in comes Malik Renew. Not many teams have that coming off the bench. A lot of teams don't have that on the floor.
No, I agree. And so you talk about Malik Renew coming off the bench, but you're also talking about Jordan Geronimo, who's playing very, very well. So now you don't wear out Race and Trace. They can get adequate rest, or if there's foul trouble or if there's an injury, the play doesn't drop off as drastically as it does from other schools around the league. Like we saw Michigan State go in and knock off Kentucky in double overtime, but they were fortunate they didn't get in foul trouble because they don't have the type of depth that Indiana does. And so I think that depth that you're referring to is going to I don't know that they're going to be able to play go 10 deep all season long. Sometimes that gets shortened up a little bit. It might be 9, but the depth is there. And I think last year when Trey Galloway got hurt, it kind of hurt the Hoosiers coming down the stretch. Well, now you've got so much depth that an injury here or there won't necessarily hurt you on your rotation.
Steven, I was going to ask you about Michigan State. How much did we underestimate them? I mean, they took Gonzaga to the wire. Now they beat Kentucky. Is this just another case of Izzo doing his magic, or what do you think about this team long term?
Well, Kevin, when you look at the team, they're veteran. Hogarth, Walker, Hauser, Malik Hall. But the key is Mady Sissoko. He's come out of nowhere. He wasn't doing this last season, running and catching lobs and drop step jump hooks and things like that. He wasn't nearly as confident, and he wasn't as adept on the offensive end. So he's really been the huge surprise in all of this. And so now, Malik Hall was preseason all conference. We knew about him. Joey Hauser was a preseason newcomer of the year when he first transferred from Marquette. So I was always waiting for him to have a bust out game like this. And then you've got veteran guards. And to me, Jaden Akins really hasn't been consistent yet, but he's got the most upside on that team. So Michigan State, you couple that with the Hall of Fame coach like Tom Izzo, and you're starting to see that I think we underestimated everybody around the league underestimated the Spartans a little bit.
Well, the Big Ten in general, there was the first initial polls come out, and you've got Indiana and then Illinois and Michigan at the very bottom in the 23-24. And I'm like, man, that's not the Big Ten that I know. And they were not being given the respect. Michigan State, like you said, Purdue, I don't think that they're going to challenge to win the league, but they're going to challenge every team that can win the league. Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and Michigan State are the four to me that are going to be in the top four. Purdue, like I said, I think they're going to be able to compete with every team that's going to win the league, but I don't think they can win the league. But Illinois is a team, not to blow your head up, Mr. Illini, but they have reloaded, and they're so quietly, I'm telling you, they might be the favorite to win the league. People just don't know that because they don't know what they have over there, what Brad Underwood is reloaded with, which is a lot of talent.
Oh, they've got a tremendous amount of talent, and we'll find out tomorrow because they're going to play UCLA out in Las Vegas, and UCLA is a national title contender. So, Illinois had, and I'm putting the air quotes in there, a secret scrimmage with Kansas where they played. They won that scrimmage, and so this is a confident Illini team, similar to Indiana. They can go 10 deep, and I think that Brad Underwood's going to try to keep it at 10 deep as long as he can based on the way that they want to play. Illinois wants to pressure. They want to be fast break. They want to be up-tempo, and they've got so many different weapons and guys. And, for Illinois, I think the difference with them is that Terrence Shannon Jr. at Texas Tech has been in big-time pressurized games. Matthew Meyer has won a national championship with Baylor. He's been in pressurized games. So when you look at guys that have been in games like they're going to face tomorrow or what they'll face in February on the road in Bloomington or in East Lansing or in West Lafayette, these guys have been in those scenarios before. And so it's going to be interesting to see if they can accept their roles. That's going to be the toughest thing. And I think that's going to be tough at Indiana as well. You've got a lot of guys that want to play and they want to play badly. So how do you keep people happy that maybe aren't getting the type of minutes? Indiana and Illinois, those are two teams, in my opinion, that will have to figure that out more than any other teams in the conference. But I do want to say this: don't sleep on the Iowa Hawkeyes. You heard this here first.
That's who I left them off. They're also a team that I put in the Purdue category.
I'm telling you, they're gonna be right there in the thick of things down the stretch in the Big Ten Conference because nobody's looking at them right now. They've got a plethora of scores. Chris Murray, I don't think he'll be as good as Keegan, but I think he'll be a 15 to 18 point score per night, and they're a dangerous squad as well.
Well, I was going to mention they have another Murray brother, but you also have two more McCaffreys.
Yes.
So they're going to have some continuity. Those guys were already there, so that's continuity. We'll see what they've added to that, but yeah, they're not going to just fall away by any stretch of the means. So the Big Ten is going to be fun again. And one other thing, having Indiana mentioned back at the top, I think that is important for college basketball. I think it's important for the Big Ten. People want the good programs to be good. I just have always believed that. You want the Kentuckys and the Dukes and the Kansases and the Indianas to be good. And I think it is good for the Big Ten to have, they don't have to win the league, but they need to be challenging for the league. I just think that helps the league overall.
Jim, you and I have talked about this before. You can walk into any venue in the Big Ten and you're not going to see as many championships banners as you do in Bloomington. And so when Indiana's great and good or great, it elevates the conference. And people at Illinois, they don't like me saying that. People at Michigan State, or Michigan, they don't like me saying that, but it's the truth. And, when Indiana is good, like you said, the nation pays a little bit more attention. The conference gets a little bit more cachet, I would say. And so right now we're starting to get into a time where we're having some really good non-conference battles for the Big Ten teams. And so Indiana going to Xavier, Illinois playing UCLA, Michigan State taking Gonzaga to the wire and then beating Kentucky. These will elevate all these opportunities will elevate the conference, where in years past, the conference has not done well in these non-conference battles. So hopefully Michigan State got the league off on the right start, and Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Iowa, all these other Purdue can follow suit.
Okay, I'll put you on the spot. I mean, do you see a Final Four team in the Big Ten right now, or?
I would not be surprised to see Illinois or Indiana. I mean, because here's what I think you need. There's 3 components that you need for a Final Four national title team. You got to have pros. You got to have guys that are going to play at the NBA level. Indiana, Illinois have that. Michigan has that. You got to have depth. Indiana, Illinois have that. You've got to have a guy that can bring you home. Somebody that you can ride, like, look, Trace, bring us home, baby. Get us 3 buckets down the stretch. He can definitely do that. I think Jalen Hood-Schifino will be able to do that at some point. So Indiana has a couple guys, in my opinion, that can bring them down the stretch. Illinois has guys in Terrence Shannon Jr., Matthew Meyer, when he's still kind of getting his sea legs together. Those 2 guys can bring you down the stretch. And I think those 3 components, Illinois and Indiana have. And I think that one of those, and I'd love to see both of them make the Final Four. It'd be great for the conference. But I think that those 2 teams in particular have those 3 components that would make them Final Four contenders.
And it would be great because the Big Ten could certainly use that. And in whether it's Indiana or Illinois, to get back to that. Speaking of these Big Ten games, Indiana had gotten away from that. Their program it's been ups and downs, and had normally had great preseason games, the Kentucky series, and that went away. Now they're back. They're going to Xavier. Of course, that's part of the Gavitt games, but you've got the ACC Big Ten Challenge with North Carolina coming into Bloomington. Indiana goes to Las Vegas after that to take on Arizona. The week after that, they go to play at the Fog Allen at Kansas. That's the stuff that has been missed and needed. But you mentioned Indiana goes out, whomever it is in the conference, whether it's Michigan State playing in the Champions Classic or Illinois playing out against UCLA in Las Vegas. Those big time games are needed for the league. But here's a great chance for Indiana because they have several of them coming up.
No, and when you have a team that you think is a title contender, whether it's conference, whether it's national title, you want to test yourself and you want to find out where you are early. And that's a gauntlet of a schedule. But if there's a team that can handle it, it's Indiana. I mean, who wouldn't want to do this, right? Who wouldn't want to go to Fog Allen and play Kansas? Come on now. If you're a baller, you want to play against the best because you want to figure out who you are. And those guys, I mean, like, the thing that really impresses me about Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson, I've gotten to know them over the years. And it sounds cliche, but it's not. They really are proud to have that jersey on. And so, it's like you said, Jim, it's been a while since Indiana's had these type of challenges. The Christian Watford jumper to beat Kentucky. I was in the building that night. I was there. And so those have been missing. But now Indiana's getting a chance to try themselves against the best in the country. And that's what you want to see in the non-conference.
Also, who would want to go to Vegas in December when it's warmer than Bloomington, Indiana, to place Arizona? I think that'd be a pretty good trip too, right?
Oh, man. And you know what? Look, here's the thing, guys. I think we did I don't know if this is considered a curse word, but we did a piss poor job of rolling out college basketball. It was just like, okay, here's the start of the season. But where are the marquee matchups? Where's the excitement? Where's it's the busiest time on the sports calendar of the year. And you've got to do something to get fans' attention throughout. College basketball is getting squeezed to March Madness, and that's it. But Big Ten fans know that we love college basketball year round. And so these matchups are really key for the sport to get eyeballs on the sport. So the fact that Indiana is willing to play Arizona and Kansas and Xavier in the Gavitt games, or Illinois goes up against UCLA, or Michigan State is in the Champions Classic. These are so important, not only for the conference, but it's for the sport. And I get very passionate about this because I think we need to do a much better job of having college basketball stick out in the most in the busiest sports time of the year.
Well, thank you for helping make that happen, Stephen Bardo from BTN. You're heading up to Marquette to call the LIV at LIU at Marquette game. Rod Strickland coaching on the sidelines. That'll be fun for you. Safe travels. I can't thank you enough, and look forward to having you on again, man. I love having you on. You're great and fun, and look forward to when you come to Bloomington to do a game. We'll get you out to one of the good restaurants to do a preview for the next series.
That would be cool, Jim. I appreciate it. Kevin, thank you. I appreciate you guys.
All right.
Thank you, Stephen Bardo from BTN, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Cannot thank him enough. And you can catch him tonight on the LIU Marquette game as well.
He faced the music, man. You know what I mean? You brought him on and he explained it, and he was good.
Love it. Love it. Yes, it was great. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. Loved having K-Bro on today. I hate that we had I don't hate that we had such a great show, but we had such a great show. We didn't get to talk as much as I'd like to. Big thanks to Matt Taylor, Stephen Bardo, Mike DeCourcy, Chris Denari as well. Big, huge thanks to K-Bro, Kevin Brockway. Make sure you're still giving him a follow as well. Hopefully he'll come back and join us again, because I hope he had as much fun as we did.
Oh, I had a blast, and it's finally starting to slow down for me. New job, you know what I mean? Like my first couple of months, I was tremendously busy, and now I'm starting to get into a little routine here. So hopefully I can hop on a little bit, maybe even during basketball season here and there, and help you guys out.
I appreciate you, brother. It's been a great one. Look forward, and thankfully to you guys most of all. Without you all, none of us have a reason to be here. We're so grateful for you. We're back tomorrow to do this again, as Indiana will take on Xavier tomorrow night. So big lineup tomorrow as well. Okay, bro, go out and have a great day, brother. Enjoy some orange juice.
All right, thank you. I'm going to finish
and the rest of everybody else. What's that?
I'm going to finish up the cereal now. It's getting a little,
Watch that like your fourth bowl. Everybody else as well, go out and have yourselves a great day. We appreciate you. Back tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.